Brazilians have always given color to football, modernized it non-stop and conquered the world of football with their talent and perseverance. Over time they have had many fabulous generations with many important players. At every World Championship, they are there and they do a show. In today, although it was hard for me, I made a top 10 of the greatest Brazilian players of all time. 10. Open the top. Jairzinho. He was a great talent who was much loved by him in the country. It was a real phenomenon because he could play in almost all positions at a very high level. But Jairzinho did his best as a secondary striker. At the 1970 World Championships, Pelé was not in good shape and Brazil was carried by Jairzinho. He scored in all matches, making the country the World Cup, driving a whole nation crazy with happiness, making his name even more beloved. 9. On the next position is Didi, being double world champion in 1958 and 1962. He was a global superstar who also played for Real Madrid. At that time, only the best players in the world were called to Real. This was his only experience in Europe. Otherwise, he also played in his native championship, as all Brazilians did at the time. He was named the 7th greatest Brazilian footballer all time and the 17th greatest footballer of the last century, and in the 10 years in which he represented his national team he collected 68 matches and scored 20 goals. Falcao was a very useful player. But not that Falcao but the Brazilian Falcao who at the 1982 World Cup was surprisingly eliminated by Italy, but he was probably the fittest player to make a fuss in midfield. First, he became several times national champion with International, a team that Falcao changed a lot for the better. In 1980 he moved to AS Roma, becoming an Italian force. He won the Italian championship once and the Italian Cup twice. In doing so, he was considered a legend of Rome and Brazil, being an exceptional midfielder. On the 8th place is an extremely intelligent player, perhaps even the most intelligent, who was extremely popular in the 80s of the last century. He was a very mobile and aesthetic player even if he was 1 meter and 90 centimeters. Using these rare qualities, he won the hearts of fans with his revolutionary steps. Besides all this, he won everything possible with Botafogo but also with Flamengo and Corinthians. In Europe, he played a few seasons at Fiorentina, which was a force of Italy. It seems to me that it far exceeded the intelligence of that period. An intelligent without borders. 7. We continue with Zico, who played football at a professional level until the age of 41. He was facing a golden generation with Socrates or Falcao. He scored 41 goals for the national team even if he was a regular decar, thus becoming the 5th highest scorer in the history of Brazil. He also had important personal distinctions, being named Footballer of the Year in South America and twice in Brazil. He was also named the 9th best footballer of the century by France Football. When he plays at Flamengo, he wins in most cases the distinction of the best scorer. For the first time he left for Europe at the age of 30 in 1983 at Udinese, being named the Footballer of the Year in Serie A, but after 2 seasons he returned to Flamengo and at the age of 38 in 1991 he left for Japan, inspiring many other footballers to do this. 5. On 5th place, I decided to put Romario, a complete player who was and will be an inspiration for many footballers. This name weighs a lot in the world. Beautiful stories say that he was the second man after Pelé to score 1,000 goals. In 1985 he started his career at Vasco da Gama and after 2 cups he transferred to PSV. Then beautiful seasons followed in the Barcelona shirt, and let's not forget the year 1994 when he triumphed with his country at the World Championship, receiving the Golden Ball and being named the best footballer in the world by FIFA. He won 2 more American Cups in 1989 and 1997. Also in that fabulous year 1997, he won the Confederates Cup and represented the country at the highest level until the age of 39. He collected 80 matches and scored 55 goals for Seleção, which is also the 4th highest marker in history. 4. On the 4th he is probably among the most talented dribblers in the history of the national team but also in the history of football. The Lame Devil, as he was also called in the country, had a real career but one that could become the most legendary, but there were too many vices without treatment. As you may have noticed, this is Main Garrincha. whom the Brazilians loved unconditionally. We probably wouldn't have enough of the metaphors to describe his dribbling in another movie. He was a two-time world champion in 1958 and 1962 with 50 selections and 12 goals. He evolved his entire career at Botafogo, being included in the first 11 of the 20th century, and World Soccer named him the greatest player of the 20th century, being clearly the most important player for Botafogo and a true immortal legend. 3. On the third place I decided to put the magical, the spectacular, the unrepeatable Ronaldinho, being nicknamed the Wizard. He was among the only 4 Brazilian players who obtained the Golden Ball. And rightly so, because in that season with Barcelona he made a show, humiliating a lot of teams and winning many important trophies. And with a team like Barcelona plus a Ronaldinho in the best shape, he made the team unstoppable in that fabulous 2005. His level reached in a few years will probably never be reached by anyone. Those were the years when he could dribble anyone and tear down any defense so that his name would remain unmoved in the window of legendary names. He can boast all the possible trophies, Champions League, World Cup, Golden Ball and many more with Barcelona, AC Milan and others. He had many enemies, but he had one that never betrayed him, the ball. 2. On the second place is Ronaldo il Fenomeno, a great phenomenon of the king sport. He was probably the greatest football player in history if the injuries that questioned his career did not occur, but they could not stop him from being a legendary player. He was a two-time world champion in 1994 and 2002. At the last tournament he came up with a cutter that will always remain in the hearts and history of football as a beautiful memory of a genius. And the 2 golden balloons from 1997 and 2002 perfectly reflect his colossal talent. Even if the injuries caused him problems, he still managed to see. And on the first place is Pelé, also nicknamed the Black Pearl. He was 3 times world champion, and if he could have received the Golden Ball he would have received 7. Absolutely fantastic. You probably all know how good Pelé was. Instead of listing everything he did better, we say a simple thank you for being you. That's about it with today's video. Thanks for watching and see you next time.